Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey Peluso and I will be discussing secondary transition services, which focus on students who are leaving high school and transitioning into their life after secondary education. To start the presentation, here are some statistics relating to the involvement of individuals with disabilities in their community and how this compares to the involvement of their non-disabled peers. 19% of students with disabilities attended four-year colleges and universities compared to the 40% of students without disabilities. Students with disabilities are more likely to attend two-year colleges or vocational schools. Students with disabilities continue to demonstrate poorer employment outcomes than do other young adults, such as fewer hours worked per week, lower salaries, and reduced benefits. Young adults with disabilities also lag behind their peers without disabilities in life skills areas like managing household responsibilities and obtaining a driver's license. IDEA of 2004 mandates that transition services be part of each student's individualized education program, or IEP, to help young people develop the skills, supports, and relationships needed to achieve their desired post-school goals. And here is some history of transition services. IDEA has always required that schools invite students with IEPs and their families to attend transition planning meetings. In these meetings, they would discuss post-secondary goals and find ways to help the students reach these goals. With IDEA of 2004, these requirements were expanded on and required that schools make these goals measurable and able to reflect the interests, preferences, and strengths of the individuals. IDEA also requires that the IEP and transition teams discuss and define any services that may be necessary to assist the child in meeting these goals. So what exactly are transition services? According to IDEA, transition services means a coordinated set of activities for a child with a disability that is designed to be within a results-oriented process that is focused on improving the academic and functional achievement of the child with a disability to facilitate the child's movement from school to post-school activities. This can include post-secondary education, vocational education, integrated employment, continuing and adult education, adult services, independent living, or community participation. Transition services are also based on the individual child's needs, taking into account their strengths, preferences, and interests, and will include instruction-related services such as OT, PT, speech and language therapy, and any other necessary services. It will also include community experiences, the development of employment and other post-school adult living objectives, and if and when appropriate, the acquisition of daily living skills and provision of a functional and vocational evaluation. When exactly do transition services start? IDEA requires that at age 16, all IEPs must include appropriate measurable post-secondary goals based upon age-appropriate transition assessments that may be related to training, education, employment, and where appropriate, independent living skills. The IEPs must also include the transition services that may be needed to assist the child in reaching their goals. Although IDEA mandates that transition services start at age 16, most IEP teams will begin to discuss possible courses of study that the individual may be interested in to determine what courses they will take throughout their high school experience. A group of researchers and educators came together to determine what components were critical in order to provide successful transition services. Paula Kohler, June Gothberg, Catherine Fowler, and Jennifer Coyle developed the Taxonomy for Transition Programming 2.0, which built upon the earlier version of the Taxonomy for Transition Programming, which was designed in 1996 by Paula Kohler herself. The framework identifies the 5 major components that allow for successful transition services and provides concrete practices identified from effective programs and the research literature for implementing transition-focused education. Here is a visual of the taxonomy, which outlines the 5 major components included in the framework. These 5 components include student-focused planning, student development, interagency collaboration, program structures, and family engagement. The following slides will discuss each of these 5 components more in depth. The first of the 5 components is student-focused planning, which focuses on IEP development, planning strategies, and student participation. Within this component, it identifies student goals, interests, and preferences. The planning team includes student and family members. Students are prepared to actively participate in the IEP development process and meetings. Students will evaluate their progress on previous IEP goals and objectives. Age-appropriate transition assessments will be used for transition planning, for example, achievement assessments, intelligence assessments, behavior, career, aptitude, skills, interest, preferences, and readiness assessments. Educational programs correspond to specific goals, including elective courses, and personal needs are addressed in planning, such as financial needs, medical needs, and guardianship. The second component is student development, which focuses on assessment, academic skills, life, social, and emotional skills, employment and occupational skills, student supports, and instructional context. This includes accommodations on assessment or alternate assessments provided as needed. Academic skills, strategies, and behaviors are developed. Self-determination, interpersonal skills, and social skills are developed. Employment skill development is provided in authentic settings. Career awareness opportunities are provided. Job placement services are provided prior to school exit. Related services are provided, such as occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, transportation, and assistive technology. Counseling services are provided for college and career readiness. Co-curricular and extracurricular activities are used to support student development. Students are educated in least restrictive environments as appropriate. Students' accomplishments are recognized and celebrated. And lastly, the instruction embeds universal design for learning. The third component is interagency collaboration, which focuses on collaborative framework and the collaborative service delivery. This includes sharing and understanding of educational and agency policy and procedures, establishing methods of communication among all service providers. Cross-agency professional development sessions are provided. Interagency coordinating body that includes students, parents, educators, service providers, community agencies, post-secondary institutions, employers, and other relevant stakeholders. School staff, counselors, and community service providers engage in planning meetings with students and families. And lastly, students and families are linked with appropriate providers to assist with financial planning, healthcare system navigating, adult disability, or mental health services and transportation. The fourth component is family engagement, which includes family involvement, family empowerment, and family preparation. Some conditions that will exist under this component include that they participate in the entire transition planning process. Family's cultural background, knowledge of, and experience with their child informs the IEP team. Family's concerns and needs are represented in school governance. Information is provided in their ordinary language and shared in cultural, responsive, and respectful manners. Supports are provided for families to engage youth in the community experiences. And family learning and preparation is provided. This may include empowerment strategies, setting high expectations, promoting child's self-determination, natural supports, legal issues, agencies, and other services. The last of the 5 components in the Taxonomy for Transition Programming Framework is program structure. This focuses on program characteristics, program evaluation, strategic planning, policies and procedures, resource development, and school climate. Some aspects of this component includes that the program options are flexible to meet the individual needs of students. Programs are outcome-oriented and reflect high expectations for all. Programs reflect the community's cultural, linguistic, and ethnic diversity. Evaluation is part of an ongoing cycle of program development and improvement. Academic and social performances are monitored. High-quality staff in all areas are recruited, hired, and retained. Schools have clearly defined sets of expectations, procedures for teaching expectations, and procedures for encouraging expected and school-appropriate behaviors. Students are provided a personalized learning environment and instructional process. And lastly, the environment is culturally responsive to students, families, staff, and other stakeholders. Although these were just some conditions and aspects that are included in the 5 components of the framework, you can see how important these conditions are in creating a successful and beneficial transition service. Something that was discussed on previous slides and something that I believe is very important for all individuals to have during the transition period of their life, even throughout their entire lifetime, is self-determination. And self-determination is a person's ability to keep themselves motivated, determined, persistent, without having any outside influence. Research has actually shown that students who have self-determination skills have a stronger chance of being successful and making the transition to adulthood, including employment and independence. With IDEA of 2004 focusing more around student involvement and participation in transition planning and services, it's important for students to develop and learn these self-determination skills. These skills can be learned through real-world experiences like taking risks, reflecting, and making mistakes. Teachers and parents must remember not to shelter individuals from taking these risks and making mistakes, as it helps to build and allow individuals to learn from their experiences. Teachers, parents, and employers must consistently create and provide environments that allow individuals to build their self-determination skills. An increase in these skills can lead to greater sense of purpose and satisfaction in adulthood. Some possible post-secondary options for individuals after high school can include education, such as 2 or 4-year colleges or universities, technical or trade schools, or adult education classes. They can go into vocational training, which includes career exploration, job skills training, personal financial management, resume writing, and interview skills. Some may go on to find employment, both with and without support. Some may choose to go into independent living, again, with or without support. They can go into group homes, or they can move on to transition and life skills facilities and programs, where they can further their knowledge and become more able to live independently. Although transition services are not frequently visited in the field of special education, they make a difference in the lives of many individuals with disabilities. A truly successful transition process is the result of comprehensive team planning that is driven by the dreams, desires, and abilities of youth. A transition plan provides the basic structure for preparing an individual to live, work, and play in the community as fully and independently as possible.